So now that 2017's over, I think it's time we look back on 2017 as a whole. Or rather the movies as a whole. And I gotta say, this year we had some pretty great movies. In fact, this is a pretty solid year for 2017 movies. But before I start out on my favourites of 2017, I've got to list a few films that might make it on that list, but won't because I haven't seen them yet. These films include Mother, The Big Sick, All the Money in the World, Coco, Molly's Game, Good Time, Raw, Call Me By Your Name, and The Disaster Artist. So with all that said, let's get into the top 10 best movies of 2017. Hey there guys, it's Mr. Chicken Movies here, and welcome to the top 10 movies of 2017, and of course this list is going to be subjective because it's my own opinion, you don't have to agree with it or whatever. With that said, here's the top 10, and first up, here's some more honorable mentions, but this time these are movies that I have seen but weren't quite good enough to make it onto the top 10, or were good enough, but then were knocked down by even better movies. So, here they are. Baby Driver, John Wick Chapter 2, Detroit, The Wall, and Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, onto the top 10. At number 10 is Star Wars The Last Jedi. I know, this is an atrocious movie according to nearly every Star Wars fan, because it does, like, two things wrong, and takes bold moves. So let me explain why I like this movie, even though it's not like I've already done a video on it or anything. But hey, this video is this video, and I'll explain why. Characters, I care about them. Direction, it's great. Music, it's great. Action scenes, they're great. It's really good at expanding the story of Star Wars without feeling prequel-esque, to put it lightly. It really well explores the characters and changes them for the better. Okay, that's going to be controversial for sure. And while there is some stuff that's really slow in it and a couple of the jokes don't land, I still found myself really invested in all the character moments. And I really enjoyed a lot of the moments that were going on in this film. The only one thing I would get rid of would be Canto Bight. Yeah, there's a couple of plot holes and so on. But so does nearly every other Star Wars film. And for that reason, Star Wars The Last Jedi is at number 10. At number 9 we have, you guessed it, It. Now, It is a horror film I wasn't really sure about, just from starting out, but as it went on, I became really invested in this. I think all the characters are really well figured out with their various flaws, motivations. They're all entertaining to watch. However, I would say that the characters get together a bit too quickly. They become friends really easily. But with that said, there's a freaking clown chasing them. And he by far is the best part of this movie. Bill Skarsgård is phenomenal as Pennywise the Clown, and in general the thing that works about this movie the best is all the horror aspects of it. From the opening scene alone, I was chilled. This film doesn't rely necessarily on poor camera work and jump scares. It does have a fair share of that, but it mostly relies on just the imagery alone to creep you out. And for that reason, It is freaking terrifying. I don't know if it was the film I was most scared of this year, but god damn it, it's a great movie. All the set design and costume was brilliant. The writing's great, with the exception of the characters getting together too quickly, but come on, that's one thing. For the most part of it, it's one of the few horror films that doesn't rely on shoddy camera work and, you know, quick cuts and so on. And so for that reason, It is at number 9. And at 8, we have Ape. War for the Planet of the Apes I don't think is necessarily the best in the trilogy, but goddammit is it a payoff for the other two movies. Now, I'll say this. I know this film has received some criticisms or whatever, but, you know, when you look down to it as a story, what you'd really have is that you have built investment in a CGI monkey, essentially. By the way, the CGI is... well, it goes without saying for a Planet of the Apes movie. The CGI is incredible. The characters are realistic and believable, even though they're freaking apes. Andy Serkis gives off a great performance. The rest of the story is really well executed. And it's not safe either. It goes in a really interesting direction with it. Some parts of it work, others don't. I'd say the whole war aspect and the whole disease aspect of it, without getting into spoilers necessarily, that's all really well done. The one part that I don't think is well done is that there's sort of a secondary plot line to whilst Caesar's doing a thing, which I'm not going to spoil. But yeah, this movie doesn't pull any punches at all. It's freaking emotional to watch. And by the end of it, you're just left going, wow, that was surprisingly dramatic for a movie about apes taking over the world. Woody Harrelson's great as a villain, nearly all the apes are great, and it also has a lot of references to its previous movies, and weirdly enough, those events have repercussions. It's just a satisfying conclusion to a franchise that no one expected to be good. In the end, it was one with a lot of heart and a lot of great CG and awesome ape stuff. Hence, War for the Planet of the Apes is at number 8. Next up, we have Get Out, which was surprisingly good for everything I heard about it. Jordan Peele is a horror guy, apparently. I mean, the last thing I knew of him is that he just did comedy. And all of a sudden, he's doing a really good horror film. And here's the thing, you could say it's on the writing or the premise, but the premise can only take you so far. It's so good in execution that you kind of just go, wow. So he really does know what he's doing. I think that Daniel Kaluuya is brilliant in this movie. I also think that all the other performances are great, in particular the other black people in the movie. I don't know their name, unfortunately. But yeah, it's just a really messed up idea that you kind of get if you watch the trailers. I don't recommend you do that. And it's almost a slow burn build. You kind of know what's going on, but you kind of don't. But by the end, when you're finally there, it's real damn worth it. It's freaking satisfying. I do however have one problem with it, which is, in retrospect, some of the scares are a bit strange. But for the most part, it's not about being necessarily, you know, a deep character event. It's meant to just psychologically torment you and be weird and stuff. And because of that, Get Out is at number 7. Number 6 is Silence. I know what some of you are going to say, oh, it's a 2016 movie, not a 2017 movie. Well, I don't recall you seeing it in 2016. In fact, I'm sure that very few people actually did, unless you're actually in Hollywood or you're a massive film critic. Also, it says on Amazon Prime that it's a 2017 movie, so screw you. Now, it's a Scorsese movie, so you can kind of expect it to have great direction, great cinematography, great photography, great acting, and you know, it really does, but that's not the reason why this movie works. This movie works because it's almost documentary-esque. It feels like a novelization, in a way. As in, you really feel what the characters are going through, and that's mostly due to Andrew Garfield. I think he's great in this movie. I think Liam Neeson's great. Adam Driver's pretty good, but understated in this. Also, the production design is freaking great as well. It's really brutal in a way that you only really realize after you watch it. It's a sort of slow build over you. It's a slow burn movie. It's slow, but not boring. It feels like it's building to something, and when it does build to it, it's more than worth it. If there were any problems with it, it would be that, yeah, sometimes it is slow. This movie isn't for everyone. But what you're going through with these characters is great. The direction's freaking perfect, in my opinion. The acting's great, the characters are well explained, it's interesting, it's vivid, it's brilliant looking, and because of that, it's at number 6. Dunkirk is my number 5 spot, and I'm sure that there are some people who are annoyed at the fact that Dunkirk has, like, not 100% great characters, but you know what they're there for, you know what they're doing, you're following them throughout their story, and they're well acted. So it didn't really bother me about the fact that the characters were a bit thin. And instead, Christopher Nolan sacrifices that for 2 hours of intensity. And God almighty, it is 1 billion times intensity. All the Spitfire stuff is great. All the practical effects and all that stuff is great. I would say it would benefit from the use of a 15 or an 18 rating, but it didn't annoy me hugely. The practical effects are by far the best part of this. The direction. I mean, Christopher Nolan is notorious for using practical effects. You know, normally you just sew a CGI plane or a CGI boat explosion, or CGI oil. For what I know, this movie didn't cut any corners in terms of what it showed. As well as this, the score was brilliant. Hans Zimmer, I know people are saying he just redid a score he's already done. I don't really think he did. I listen to the score a lot, and it's great every single time. Because it sort of interweaves the various storylines. It's clever in terms of its storytelling. I wouldn't say you have to watch it multiple times, but it's the sort of thing that you kind of need to see on a big screen in order to enjoy. For that reason, Dunkirk, it's the sort of film that I can see myself watching again, but it's a hell of a watch. Because like I said, it's intense. There's no real part for you to slow down while watching the film. It's not for everyone though, but I'm sure the majority of people would enjoy it. And yeah, the characters are a bit thin, but it's more than made up for with its directions. And for that reason, Dunkirk is at number 5. Now, I was surprised to like Lady Bird as much as I did, because normally I find that all these Oscar movies are incredibly overrated. But with that said, I think all the story parts of this film are pretty much impeccable. In fact, in general, there are barely any problems I can find with Lady Bird. The performances, in particular from Saoirse Ronan, but nearly everyone is fantastic in this movie. The performances are great. I think it's really good at balancing out the tone in a way that it feels very personal, but it's also allowed to be very light-hearted and feel like it's made in the early 2000s, which is what the director intended. It's a really funny movie, which I didn't expect at all, but I noticed myself chuckling every 2 minutes or so. I think the characters are very well realized, and the way the story moves is very clever as well, because I thought that the movie was taking itself in a direction that I didn't agree with, that had a poor message in it. But then it circled back and added a lot of commentary over those things, and for that reason I really liked it. In general, I'd say if I had one problem with this film, it's that it sometimes does linger over the fact that it's set in the 2000s, and it goes over those generic things you see in these coming-of-age films. However, when you look at it, Lady Bird is a coming-of-age film that actually really works at showing it, and never actually, I'd say, is ever slow. It's a film that very well paces itself, it's real funny, it really well balances itself out, the acting and the characters are great, the direction's pretty good, and overall I'd say it's just a pretty pleasant film to watch. So yeah, enjoy yourself watching Lady Bird, and for that reason I've put it all the way up at number 4. So when you get the writer of Sicario and Hell or High Water to direct a movie, surprise surprise, it's going to be great, and Wind River is living proof of that. I think Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen give great performances in this movie, but they're not the only ones. I think all the performances all round are fantastic. But I think it's probably Renner's best performance of his career. The direction is pretty great. I'd say this film is pretty brutal, but not in an annoying way. It's very immersive in terms of the world, so it makes itself feel unique, even though it takes a plot that's been done several times before. Another major plus that it has is the way that it kind of... It's like a slow burn in terms of the way it's done. It moves at a perfect pace, similar to Sicario and similar to Hell or High Water. It also, the visuals are very good. I think that is by far a very good point of this film. I wouldn't say that it's the best part of this film because, as I said, the acting is great and the writing is great. So it's got a big 3 out of all of these. And so, in general, I'd just say it's done in a really special way. It's done so that it feels very, very different, very, very intricate, very brutal. However, it feels very unique as well, and that's something that I think is very strong with this movie. Does it have problems? I wouldn't really say so. The only thing is it sometimes just darts across stories. However, it never really takes you away from the plot of the film. And for that reason, Wind River is at number 3. Logan is probably the best Marvel movie I have ever seen. Logan is, to be honest, the second best superhero film ever made. And I'm not even kidding, because this film is brutal as hell. The thing that I think it has to its strength most is the fact that it's a 15, so it can show gore and language and make a really brutal new world out of the X-Men universe. It kind of says, well, screw this other timeline, because we only take one part of this, your investment in the characters. Speaking of the characters, Hugh Jackman gives his best performance ever as Wolverine, and I think that Daphne Keane is a great upcomer as X-23. Boyd Holbrook's great, Patrick Stewart's great, and it's a freaking sad movie. It also uses its 15 rating to come across as more of a Western-style movie in the X-Men universe, which makes it so refreshing. And because of that, stylistically, this film works really well. The direction's pretty good, writing's pretty good. It's a really slow movie. Again, it's a slow burn, but it's really effective when we've seen this character about 6 times before, and we love him all 6 of those times. The music is really good in this movie. A lot of parts are really well done. It's perfectly paced, the action is nail-biting, and in the end, it was one of the few superhero films that ever properly gave me an emotional reaction. Without spoiling the movie, yeah, you know what I'm talking about if you have seen the movie. It's pretty funny as well, but not overly funny in a way that it distracts from the tone. It's just really vivid and excellent in the way that it's done. And because of that, it's one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. Logan is a brilliant send-off to Wolverine, a great send-off to Hugh Jackman, and a great introduction to other characters. And because of that, Logan is at number 2. When I finished the first Blade Runner movie, I left it thinking, wow, that was a really unique and well done sci-fi movie. When I left Blade Runner 2049, I felt, wow, that is possibly one of the best films I've ever seen. In my eyes, Blade Runner 2049 is practically flawless. I'm going to start off with its direction. It's directed by Denis Villeneuve, who also did films like Arrival and Sicario, and this is the perfect match for him. The visuals in this movie are absolutely stunning. In a visual standpoint, this film is perfect. It's also got Roger Deakins doing the cinematography, and this film is beautiful. As Adam from YMS said, this movie, at any shot, could be your desktop background. It's that good. And weirdly enough, I did make it my desktop background. Blade Runner 2049 also has a load of great actors in it, and they do the best with what they have. Ryan Gosling's broodiness actually works very well. Harrison Ford cares. Robin Wright is excellent as always. Dave Bautista surprised me. So did Ana de Armas with her performance. And Jared Leto actually had a redemptive role that really worked. Yeah, this film doesn't have a lot of action in it, but is it really meant to? It's really loyal to what the first Blade Runner film is, whilst also introducing us to a ton of new technology and ideas and themes. And because of that, this movie is so damn good. In the first 10 minutes, I knew that this was going to be a really unique and satisfying story, and by the end of it, I saw an excellent film that tied itself up in a neat bow. It didn't try franchise baiting or anything like that, it just wanted to be its own film. And because of that, Blade Runner 2049 just felt so great. It's a really surreal feeling film. It's really dark in a somber way, so it really builds upon itself. In terms of the themes, in terms of the original plot, it doesn't steal a lot. It's a very itself movie that I think is perfectly suited for Blade Runner. Everything in this movie is just so well done. If there's one thing you could criticize it for, it's that it feels way too long. But the weirdest thing is I never felt its 2 hour 40 minute runtime, whereas I did with the original's 2 hour runtime. I think that this film is near flawless. There's one plot hole that I think sinks this movie from being absolutely perfect. In addition to that, there's also the amazing music, which overstays its welcome, but in a way that just makes the film feel so grand. It makes it feel so worth it. And because of that, I gave Blade Runner 2049 the #1 spot for the best film of the year. If you have not seen this movie, it may not be for you. if you like the first one, and you just like seeing films with great visuals and so on, then you're gonna really like Blade Runner 2049. And for that reason, it's at number 1. So this was a pretty great year for movies, huh? I think that this year was really great in terms of what we got. I'll have a worst of the year list coming up either tomorrow or the day after. And yeah, this year isn't impeccable. But with that said, 2017, what was your favourite film of the year? Did you agree? Did you disagree with me? Did I leave anything out that you thought should be there? Was anything overrated? Was I wrong in some parts? Let me know. But yeah, and in addition to that, because I've seen like 60 or so movies this year, I just decided that I'd actually be doing a third video where I talk about the rest of them that I haven't talked about this year. So look forward to that. And also check out my Twitter account, at Mr. Chicken Movies, where you're sure to see some other of my movie opinions. And sure, let's hope that 2018 will be a good year for film. I don't think so. So yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.